This is Yosef Bruer for ESFI, and I'm here with Mark Ferraz, CEO and founder of Quantic Gaming. I want to start off this interview by asking you, how did you get into competitive gaming? Like, how did it all start for you?
Well, for me, it was like I was a gamer in college, actually. I played like Counter-Strike and stuff, not really highly competitively though. And then life got in the way, and work and family and everything else. And then in 2010, I bought a PlayStation 3 and got hooked on Battlefield Bad Company 2. Started playing on the Game Battles ladder, got real involved with Game Battles in a volunteer standpoint, became an admin on that site, and started a Battlefield team there, and really started to fall in love with the kind of character building benefits and aspects of leadership and communication and trust and accountability and working hard and discipline and all the same kind of behaviors that I saw in like my corporate work environment. So I really wanted to promote those with the youth that I was involved with in that team. And one thing led to another. I did what I do, which is build organizations and businesses. And before you know it, we were sponsoring into Call of Duty on the same thing, the Game Battles ladders. And then we ended up sponsoring a team, Next Threat, which actually ended up going on to win the Nationals last year. And as well as Leverage and Influence, which we then departed the organization, and we picked up Fear. So it was all Call of Duty last year, and then we went into StarCraft about halfway through with the pick of the StarCraft team from EMG. And I don't know if I really answered your question, but
No, you did.
Basically I got into it philanthropically.
Yeah. All right, well, speaking of Quantic, obviously, how did that all start? Like, what made you say, okay, I want to start this team, get into FPS for COD?
Well, actually, it was 007 Gaming first.
Okay.
It was like James Bond, right?
Yeah.
And then we realized we were going to go to Dallas, and we really wanted to do well. And we were like, oh shit, we might win. We have 007, they're going to come after us, right? So, not that there's lots of people here named Nesty and and all kinds of things Pac-Man or whatever, but it's all copywritten. But so we went through this big word search, and we did 10,000 different words, and we used visualthesaurus.com, and turns out that at the end that we found Quantic, which is a name that could be used as a prefix to any team name, and it would enhance that name. And it was also a real word. It's a mathematical term that means a homogeneous polynomial with more than one variable. And basically, it's a name that's non-copyrightable, so we felt pretty safe in using it. There's lots of other businesses and musical groups and stuff like that that use the word Quantic. It just so happens when you search on YouTube now that we're one of the top, results. But I mean, we felt safe in using that name for that purpose. So that's why we made the change right before we went to Dallas.
Okay. Well, how was the transition from going to COD into StarCraft 2?
I think at the time, StarCraft 2 was so hugely exploding that it was really kind of a barometer for success. And I think that we saw a lot of behaviors that was happening in StarCraft 2, and we were like, wow, if we can replicate some of this in Call of Duty, it'd be really good. So we did. We tried to do that. We tried to introduce player contracts and stuff like that, and it was a real fiasco. And during that year, Eon was formed, which is the merger of Envious and Optic Gaming, and at least from a pro standpoint. And they started doing revolutionary new things. And for the rest of the year, it was it was Quantic and Eon and Quantic and Eon and Quantic and Eon. And I think even today, heading into Black Ops 2, we still have a championship title to defend, and they're doing everything they can to sharpen their blade as well. And our commitment to Call of Duty still stands. But I mean, our primary investment picks and our market picks right now of where we are in the marketplace is definitely in StarCraft, from a 10 to 15 to 1 ratio with Call of Duty.
So
we're heavy into StarCraft.
Right, so much more financial influence on your StarCraft side. Than
Absolutely. And I think that the MOBAs and stuff like that. Maybe we'll go into League of Legends, or maybe we'll double back into Dota again. But I mean, Dota's kind of shown a lot of instability recently. But I mean, I don't really know exactly where we're going to go from a position perspective here. But we're definitely going to stay in StarCraft 2. We'd like to see another PC shooter title, do well, but I don't know if that's going to happen or which one it's going to be yet. And whereas in 2011, we tended to ride the front, leading edge of a lot of these things, we would pick up teams really early. Now we're kind of a little bit different mindset where we're kind of waiting and seeing until we know what's going on, because we have the brand power and the resources to be able to make the right picks. So.
What does your heart say about Black Ops 2 when that comes out? Do you think that's
really good, man? It feels really good. I mean, the features that they've added and the way that they've added them and the way it's supposed to work with Call of Duty Elite and some of the streaming features and capabilities off the console and everything like that, it's going to be super revolutionary for esports. And if you look at these people talk about League of Legends has big numbers because there's X number 100,000 people playing it or whatever. Call of Duty title, that's the active title, on Xbox or PlayStation has 700 to 1 million people playing at any given time. So like even if we were to like include stream viewership within the console client or the ability to stream from the console client, you're talking about numbers that make League of Legends look like kindergarten. Yeah. So I mean, if the game can be actually handled properly from a circuit perspective and the rules can actually be put together properly so that the game is relatable when it's played in the circuit to the way that people are actually playing it at home, we're going to have a huge ringer on our hands, I think.
Let's talk more about the growth of Quantic so far. How difficult were those steps from going, from a smaller starter esports team to what you guys are today?
Fucking hell. Yeah. No bullshit.
Sums it up.
Brutal. Like you have to risk everything. I've risked my family. I've risked my career. I've risked my savings. I've risked my everything. I've risked everything I've ever cared about on the face of the planet to see this happen. And I didn't even ask to do this. Like if I had tried to do this intentionally, it never would have worked.
And you weren't even asked to do that. What do you mean by that?
You gotta love it, man. You gotta love this so much. It's like a multi-year grind, and if you don't love it more than anything, like it's not for you, And it's rough. And I gotta tell you what. It's not just me either. It's not just mine. I gotta like thank my partners, Flaming Cow and Chucky, who are both with Google, and our staff members who have just dedicated themselves tirelessly, our fans and players who've done nothing but pour themselves into this. I mean, this is so much bigger than just me. Just because I started doesn't mean that I'm like the end-all, be-all thing. And in fact, I believe like to be a clock builder, not a time teller, it's all about being able to build something that's standing the test of time, regardless of whether or not you remain involved forever. And God forbid that I ever wouldn't be involved, but. I see this as more of a custodialship than anything else, something I have to protect and defend and to try to foster and care for. So I was real scrappy in the beginning, man. I used to like really do all the competitive stuff, get into these arguments with other teams about players and stuff like that, and I think that our place has changed in the ecosystem now to where I really need to be a lot more cool-headed and a lot more like empathetic with people and just trying to really hear everybody out and trying to make good outcomes happen. So
well, I see a lot of passion in what you just said out of all that, so this really leads in perfectly with my next question.
Sure.
It seems like seeing other teams like Slayers and Check 6 fall recently, how does it make you feel as far as you being the team founder and like what steps that it needs to take for Quantic to not end up to be the next maybe Check 6 or next Slayers sponsors problem, things like that, players from the inside out, conflicts, controversial things like that?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you one thing for sure. There's no business manual in esports. There's no like way to like do this without like fucking up. And it's a lot easier. Like I always say, it's hard to do esports right, but it's harder not to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And the way that I try to deal with protecting myself from future risk is by having been screwed over by everybody who's tried to screw us over in the past at least once. And making sure that we have the protective mechanisms and the filtering intake processes and the measurement and career planning and all this kind of stuff in place to prevent those things from happening again. So you just can't protect yourselves and maintain goodwill in the community. You got to be able to like have bad things happen to you and then be able to realize, oh, this is what's happening, and then stop it from happening before it happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I see Check 6 and I see some of these other people collapse, I feel really bad because I know the kind of pressure and passion that goes into those organizations, what they did, but at the same time, there are some mistakes in this business that are fatal, and learning from others is a necessity. This is the Wild West still. There's very little regulation. There's very little governance. So it's real easy to trip on yourself and fall.
Hard.
And it's real hard to get up. Yep.
Like you just said, man, doing esports right is hard, and not fucking up is even harder for other people. Who or what is fucking up esports in your opinion right now? If you could just comment on that.
I mean, there's a real thin line between artificial growth and speculative whimsicalness. I think that it's one thing to say that, people are in here pouring their passion or their soul or whatever, that sponsors are in here putting their money, which they may have questionable or no return at sometimes, whatever that case may be. With like publishers coming in and pouring in tons of money and trying to create a structure artificially or drive growth artificially, it's a really thin line between those things. And I think that the scariest thing that we could see happen right now in esports is for this to become non-democratized. Like that's really what we want. StarCraft is democratized, and that's why it works. It's not because DirecTV or somebody else is trying to build up this industry from nothing. It's because the fans are growing this, and all we have to do is respond to them. And so right now the fans are telling us to slow down a little bit, so we need to slow down a little bit, not try to get ahead of ourselves, not try to push growth that doesn't need to happen until it needs to happen. And if we can do that, then we'll avoid another CGS. We'll avoid another, the travesties of the past, I think.
After saying all that, I mean, what do you think the state of StarCraft 2 is right now, and what are your thoughts on the present and the future of StarCraft? You said slow it down right now because, where the fans are saying to slow it down. What do you see in the future, and what are your comments on, I guess, everything that happened on inside the game and things like that?
Well, I mean, I think, you know what? I think that DJ Wheat takes a little bit of heat there. I mean, I love Marcus to death. I mean, I think he's done some really great things for the entire community. I think that his views are probably in a little bit more in alignment with the industry insider views than, let's say, perhaps Destiny, which God bless him, used to be one of my players as well, whose views are definitely going to be more in line with the more popular views of the casual gaming community. But that being said, I mean, I don't really take a right or wrong on that whole incident. I know that there was folks at Blizzard and elsewhere that, took some offense to that, but I mean, ultimately, I think that the opinions on both sides are valid. I think that we are in a lull right now before HOTS comes out. I think that we're going to see, I mean, clearly HOTS is, even to me, a more enjoyable gaming experience to watch and witness. And I think we're going to see with the new units and some new tactics and, things kind of reset a little bit as there's a new game that's kind of coming out from an expansion perspective. And I feel like Blizzard is responding to the community, and they are trying to do things to help enhance the game and help make things a little bit better. That being said, it is like a complicated title, and it is the ultimate essence of sophistication in gaming. I mean, that's the reason why it has created the legacy that it has, is because it is the ultimate titanic struggle of two people, and you can see that in every way. It's like gladiatorial. So I mean, when you look at it from that standpoint, to water it down and to make it more simpler, it would really, I think, detract from what it actually is. But at the same time, when you watch like League of Legends or you watch Dota 2, like the reason that the crowd rises and falls with the action is because everything's not simple but beautiful, and it's immediately gratifying. Whereas StarCraft, I think, requires a certain amount of acumen to really understand why things are fantastical, like why you will never do what MMA just did, But I'm very hopeful for the future.
Well, there's something you could change in HOTS to make it, I guess more or less like LoL and Dota and things like that, and you could change it from a developer, form. What would you do with HOTS? How much would you change from StarCraft 2? Would you make it easier? Would you make it harder?
Actually, honestly, to tell you the truth, and this is so weird to say this, because I always, when I first started watching with StarCraft, I was like, wow, this game is like so like amazingly detailed to watch and everything like that, and the graphics are so amazing. And then I looked at StarCraft 1 and I was like, it's like Minecraft. It's crazy, And like, because I was never there for StarCraft 1, so for me, it was like, that was like a totally non-starter for me, right? I saw that stuff. But I mean, I feel like looking at where the graphical experience for like League or Dota and stuff has gone since the time since StarCraft 2 has come out. And I don't want to like say, well, let's take StarCraft 2 like even further fantasy, but I mean, I think that having things be more colorful and more beautiful is really important. And I think it's very important from a spectator experience. Everybody wants to get more into this, I want to see the streams in the client, I want to see this, that, and the other. People have already covered that stuff. Like, you guys have already got that covered. You want something different from me? I'm going to say, let's make it more bright and colorful. Let's make it more splashy and spectacular, because when something like that happens on the screen, everybody just viscerally can react to that, And it was a time like in 2011 when seeing these big air battles, TVT and stuff like that was like really fantastical, but it's not enough today anymore. Yeah. And people are looking for something more. So I think maybe, like adding the psychedelic StarCraft experience, might not be such a bad idea, right? Yeah. Make things a little bit more trippy.
Have your players switched to playing a little bit more HOTS now, since in the beta right now, maybe coming out in the next 3, 5, 6 months? Have you guys switched to that at the house?
No.
Or are you guys still focusing on Wings of Liberty completely?
How's that? No. Don't even ask my captain, Sase. He'll tell you, I don't know what you're playing that game for. It's not even out yet. It's trash. You're wasting your time. But I mean, I think Illusions play a little bit of Heart of the Swarm. He won a tournament and stuff like that for it, But I mean, we don't have anybody playing White Raw style Heart of the Swarm 24/7. We're still very into Wings of Liberty. We have the WCS finals coming up in Beijing. We have ESWC, our American Zerg Hawk is there right now representing North America. Yeah. We have this tournament going on right now. We have IEM. All this stuff's all Wings of Liberty. So we got to stay strong in the game, the title that's actively being fought in right now. And I think that's definitely Wings of Liberty, and it's going to be at least throughout the end of the year. Even perhaps it's going to be interesting to see, because everybody's like, well, we're not going to switch to Heart of the Swarm. But then when it comes out, are they really going to do that? I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they will switch to Heart of the Swarm, and there'll be like this big vacuum, like 2 or 3 months at a time, when there's going to be like all these unseen stars that come out of nowhere and just destroy people and destroy worlds and stuff like that. But I mean, with the Kespa teams now and everybody getting involved, and we're seeing tournaments like this, it's like one world, one game. Yeah. So I think we're going to see a very different landscape as it evolves out throughout the rest of the year.
Well, let's talk more about the team house. How's that going in California, and where do you guys see a return on your investment from the house?
Well, I mean, the house is really an exposure opportunity, and it's an ability for us to, develop the skill and talent of the players. The house, it's a lot of house. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful house, and but it's very primarily located in Southern California, in Oceanside, a mile from the shore. Great access to our sponsors, to folks that we're working with, whether they may be, official sponsors or not. People like, Red Bull, or who've done events with and such in the past. Alienware, who's supplying all the facility equipment and gaming gear and everything like that for the house. And Razor, who's, of course, one of our official periphery sponsors, who we just recently had a barbecue with at the house. So it's a 6,000 square foot house. It's a very big facility. Has a 14-player capacity. And whether that's going to stay all StarCraft 2 or whether we're going to split that into something else as we, do different ventures or different titles, we're going to see. But there's absolutely no question that more important than just having a flashy house, the house is producing results. If you look at what's happened with State and Illusion, even pre their time in Korea, like them being at the house produced results. Hawk was 6-0 in his group last night in ESWC. American Zerg, the dude's a full-time student. Like, he is in the house all summer. He came out of the house way sharper than he went into it. So, I mean, and we've had players from teams from all over the world asking to put their players in our house. Because it's a more, rigid environment. It's not like every other foreign team house. It's a little bit more discipline-oriented. And we do things with the players, like take them out and go to a meditation specialist to talk about how to deal with high-pressure situations. Right. Or encourage them to work out at a local gym that we, provide access to, and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's like a very holistic environment for the players, and I think that that's what's needed. And by bringing our Korean players and partners over into the same facility, it allows us to do all sorts of great things, from a skill perspective, to kind of bridge the gap in the metagame between North America and Europe and Korea. So
would you say you guys are doing it better than the other houses?
I definitely think we are. Yeah, I definitely think we are. And I think that the fact that we're doing it the way that we're doing it, and we're doing it like all on our own, right? It's not like we're not to say that we don't have some people in the house that are like guests, but the fact that we have total control over that environment and that we can do what we feel is best for the players, and we can get the players buy-in on all that and get them to understand why it's important. It's not only about building their skill, but it's also about building their brand and their fan engagement and their exposure and all the things that are also necessary to be a public figure as a pro gamer. So the media exposure opportunities, now that we have the facility there, we're starting to build a studio out there, and it's going to be really exciting. Being the world's only Machinima sponsored team, I mean, there's a Machinima Studios an hour and a half away in LA. We've been doing some things with them there on site as well. But I think we want to see the media train really crank up. We've been seeing a lot of mobile media capabilities from Quantic coming out recently at these events, but we want to see the media train at the house start up as well. And I really feel like that's where we're going to see the return on investment come through.
Right, so that next big step for you guys is definitely through media.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which is an area we've always been strong in, but we haven't paired it with what we're doing at the house just yet. So.
Well, how do you keep that connection with your players that are in the house, and then, like you said, you have Sase, who's over, not in the house clearly. So how do you keep that connection?
He's in our partner facility in Korea, which right now with State and Illusion as well.
Yeah.
So, Garrett is our player manager. He really stays in touch with the players. He also speaks Korean, and he does, his job, I mean, his full-time job is to live, travel, fly with the players at the facilities, meet their needs on an ongoing basis, their logistics, their travel, their gear requirements, their tournament, activations, make sure they're getting stuff out for partner marketing, make sure they're getting stuff out for promotions, make sure that they have the right, tournament registrations in place, that, that if they want a qualifier through this and it's being paid for by that sponsor, that the airfare is all booked. It's a huge job. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have somebody who is as dedicated to this as he is. With us, and I feel like, and he's made a lot of sacrifices to be able to do this job too. Coming out of an 8-year PR career with big companies like Intel and Apple and stuff. So, very fortunate to have him. Ian, who's one of my co-owners, he also is real involved with the players, especially the folks that came over from Vile, and. I do keep in touch with the players, and I try to stay visible with the players. I try to be available for the players and let people know that no matter what happens, even if they're upset or whatever, that they can come to me. I might not be able to fix it right away, but I mean, I definitely want to hear them and what they have to say. So, and there's some players like Sase, for example, is a great example. If he doesn't hear from me for too long, or if there's too long we go out for it without talking, he doesn't like that. He wants to feel connected. He wants to feel in touch with what's going on in upper management, and he does feel a lot of ownership and a lot of pride for the team. So.
I want to hear more about how you guys acquire players. If you're trying to convince a player to come to join Quantic, What do you tell them that sets you guys apart from all the other teams that are buying for those same players?
You know, I would say, I wish I could tell you there was like some secret pitch that we give them, but to be quite honest with you, the way that we've treated players through the past, the fact that we are the only organization that's had such stellar reputability with players, that we've engaged and disengaged successfully and without event with players like Naniwa and Destiny, just goes to show the reason why players from all over the world call us before they make a decision. And there's so many top players that want to be here. We've had applications from over 10% of the global Grandmaster population. I mean, we've had over 1,000 StarCraft players have applied to be on Quantic's teams. So we're definitely one of the main stops. Even if you're dealing with like, you know, an EG or Complexity or Dignitas or whatever, people are going to call us where they make that final decision, you know. And that just gives us an opportunity to talk with them and learn more about what they want to see happen in their career and see if it aligns with what we're doing. And that's kind of what I was talking about with our intake process, because taking the right players that align with what you're trying to do with as an organization, with what they're trying to do in their professional career, really helps, like, from a synergistic perspective about how they're going to develop within your organization and the longevity of the player in the organization and the longevity of their career overall. So, yeah.
Well, thanks very much, man, for the interview. It's actually been a pleasure. Do you have any final words you wanted to say?
I just want to thank our sponsors, Twitch TV Vision, Razer, Machinima, Alienware for providing all the facility equipment at the training facility in San Diego County, and of course our partners, StarTel, and all of our fantastic players and fans. We couldn't do this without you. We love you.
All right, man. Thank you very much for the interview, and good luck to all your players this weekend.
Cheers.